I didn't know this room could expand, so it's kind of weird how it grew like 20 feet. I'm Jen P, and I'm an alcoholic. Hey. My sobriety date is July 13th. That's a Friday of 2012. And my home group is Keeping It Sober. We have an 8 p.m. closed discussion on Tuesday, and you're sitting in the open speaker meeting on Saturday. And I'm blessed to have a home group like I do today. I found that Alcoholics Anonymous in the Sandhills we're really, really lucky to have it like we have it here. So I also have a sponsor who has a sponsor who has a sponsor, and so on. And I also have the privilege of sponsoring women in the program today, and that has been one of the greatest gifts of this program. So it's a lot of fun to watch other people grow and struggle through things that you've struggled through, and then remain and get through those things. So that's exciting to me. I guess I'll start at the beginning. It was a dark, stormy night in October of 1984. I was born to a uber Christian home. I was at church, sick, angry, throwing up. Didn't matter. We were there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Tuesday Bible study, Wednesday youth group, Friday youth activity, so on and so forth, and was very, very involved in that through all of my life. And one thing that taught me to do from an early age is judge, because I felt better then, and I felt that, there were right things and there were wrong things, and if you did the wrong thing, then you were a bad person, and that's helped shape the rest of my life. Just to put it in perspective, our favorite family show was Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. So Saturday nights, we'd all get together and sit down there, and my sister wanted to be Dr. Quinn because she's a strong, independent woman, and she wants to go against gender bias and all of that fun stuff. I'm sure my mom had a favorite character. My dad probably wanted to be Sully or somebody, but I wanted to be one of Jake's saloon girls. Now, at that age, I didn't really realize what that meant. I just knew that I wanted to drink shots of whiskey. There's never alcohol in my home. It was not something that was around, was talked about. Drinking was a sin, and sinners go to hell. So obviously, that was not something that we partook in our house. But literally, every night, because after watching Dr. Quinn, we go and take our baths and everything. I would sit there with Solo cups, like the little mini ones that you use for brushing your teeth, and I would fill them up, and I would take shot after shot until like my stomach hurt because I had so much water in my belly because I was practicing taking those shots of whiskey. And that doesn't make sense at all in the home that I was brought up in. That's why I believe I was born an alcoholic. No part of my environment brought this on me. I was true blue from the very beginning. My mom and dad talk about how I never felt it a part of, or like I belonged. And I've heard someone else say, I always wanted to be the center of attention, but if you were paying attention to me, I was really nervous. So like I would put together like ballet recitals, me and my sister, and then get really upset if anybody laughed or applauded or anything. And that remained true through elementary school. I never felt like I had any friends. I was okay in school, but like my real friends were in church. And in 4th grade, my parents decided to take me out of school and homeschool me for a couple years. And for a long time, I blamed my alcoholism on that, because if you had to stay at home with your mom and learn math, you would drink too. But the reality of it is I couldn't find my place in school, and so my parents were worried, and they tried to do the best that they could. So I went back to school. Hated it even worse after going back, and sophomore year I decided that I was going to drop out. So at 16 and 2 days, I dropped out of high school and started going to community college. Also, through this whole time, I am on a statewide missions team. We go out monthly to different churches, and we are, singing and doing puppet shows and stuff. It sounds really weird, but it really did happen. so we'd like minister to different churches, and I like literally would carry my Bible around school with me and like try to save people. It was really cute. People didn't really like it, and so this whole time I'm like, God. And when I was 16, I was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, and it was a really tough diagnosis because I was really, really sick. No one in my family has it. There's no reason for me to have it except for God has a plan. And I was pissed. I was really pissed. I had dedicated my life. I had, gone to church religiously. I had tried not to do the big sins, and sat there in judgment of people that had for a long time. And so I felt that God was punishing me, and I was pissed. And so this all happened right around the time I dropped out of school and started going to community college. And so I started finding these people that lived on the fringe. And I'm a late bloomer. I didn't have my first drink until I was probably 17. But I know for a fact it was Fuzzy Navel. And my girlfriend had one, and she was like, and I had like 6, and I was like, I need something more. And, and it did take off that edge. For the first time in my life, I felt pretty. For the first time in my life, I felt like people were laughing at my jokes. I felt like the life of the party that night. Even though I wasn't, I was just that weird 17-year-old girl that's drinking Fuzzy Navels in the corner. I still felt a part of, and that's something that I chased for the rest of my drinking career. So I'm in community college. I'll go ahead and fess up. I've been in community college for 6 years, and I have 3 credits. I'm not a finisher. I went and I partied a lot in community college, and that's where I met some other substances. I do have other substances in my story, for sure, but drinking started it all, drinking finished it all, and AA answered my lifelong question. And so out of respect for that, I'll keep my talks to alcohol. At 17, I moved out of my parents' house because it sounded like a really good idea. I moved in with the best friend of my best friend's boyfriend's best friend's house, and we'd gone over there a week before, and we got chased off the property because the guy I was dating was also dating the birthday girl, and so it was really convoluted. And the next 4 years were a lifetime story, and if I ever had the ability to sit down and finish something, I'd probably write that out, and I may make some money because there's kidnapping, there is suicide, there is, attempted murder, there is just really, really funny drunk things happening. And I loved it. And my mom always said birds of a feather fly together, and I never understood that, and that she meant it in a bad way, until I got on this side, until I got sober the first time, and I looked back and I was like, that's not how friends treat friends, and that's not how husbands treat wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, none of that. So that was a really good time in my life. I also have some outside issues in that all my life I've been searching for what's wrong with me, and I thought that I found it a couple of times. One time I thought for sure it was my eating disorder. At one point I was 108 pounds, which on a 5'9" girl is alien looking, and and so I was like, oh yes, this is my problem. And so I went away to this really cool horse farm treatment facility for 6 months. And the first day they're like, no smoking, no drinking, no marijuana, no caffeine. I was like, great. About 3 hours in, I wanted to kill myself. And that remained for that 6 months that I was there. The only thing that I got from that is some really good yoga technique. And I got really good at coloring things because we had to do a lot of coloring. It was not a 12-step program. It was a spiritual program. It was a lot of fun. I met a lot of really nice, very skinny girls there, but that wasn't my problem. So I come home, and they have me on all these crazy medications, and of course I start drinking again, and tried to jump out of a car going down 485 at 65 miles an hour, and that's when I realized that, maybe I have a problem, and that's when I started joking around about, oh yeah, I'm an alcoholic, but I'm not a quitter, just all the things that we say to make ourselves feel better, when on the inside that little voice is saying, you are not like other people, you cannot drink, and you're crazy. So I did not listen to that voice. I did not listen to my parents. They had all kinds of things going on, prayer meetings. They may have come lay hands on me while I was sleeping. I don't know. I was probably passed out. But that led into the next 4 years of my daily drinking. And daily drinking for a diabetic means giving up a lot. I gave up my health. I gave up a lot of jobs because when your body works like mine does, it doesn't process alcohol the way normal bodies do, and so I was drowning myself. From that time that I started daily drinking till now, I've been in the ICU 13 times on my deathbed. I've been in the ER 7 other times, and I've been admitted to the hospital just on the regular floor twice. And all of those times, the doctors couldn't explain to me why I was alive. And today, standing behind this podium, I know why. Because God has another plan for me, and He has someone that needs to hear something that I've been through, and that's cool for me. So, through all the hospital visits, the loss of jobs, all that kind of stuff, I also deflected to one of my other addictions, which is relationships and men, and it's not quite as bad for my body, but it's really bad for my mind, and it is definitely an addiction. If we had chips, I'd have a lot of them. I have a lot of white chips in that department, and it's something that today is really hard for me because I look back and I have quote unquote regrets, but I know without every single one of those failed relationships, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't know what I want and more of what I need. So my sponsor always says, spend the next couple of years doing what alcoholic women do. If you're an alcoholic woman, you understand. If you're not, don't worry about it. Came around 2008, got my first DUI. They pulled me over and I blew .08 and they arrested me. Jerks. And so I went to Mecklenburg County Jail, and I didn't have to change out or anything. It was traumatic enough. Called my brother, he came, bailed me out, and went on with my life, didn't tell my parents, and kept driving like I had a license for the next year and a half. And then in 2009, I got my second DUI, and that one was better in that I blew higher, so I don't have to be embarrassed by my blood alcohol level. I spent 45 minutes trying to call Ronald McDonald to bail me out of jail. Don't know why. Didn't have anybody else's number. Just needed something to say. That time I did have to change out, and that was a whole other experience. My parents also let me sit there for a couple of days, and as low as I had gotten over the years, I still was a judger, and I was still better than you. And being in that jail with the likes of other drunks, prostitutes, drug dealers, armed robbers, I don't know who all was there, but I was better than them, and I didn't deserve to be there. And I really didn't understand why the guards were so mean, because I was a good girl, and I didn't do anything wrong. And so after I got out of there, I ended up being locked up over Friday. I left bowling league with my company and got the DUI, and then didn't show up for work on Friday and didn't call because I was in jail. And so they were kind of hesitant to let me come back, and they did say I could as long as I didn't drink at any company functions, which I didn't for like 2 weeks. And And they were pretty quick to let me go after that. And I thought that I was as low as I ever would be, and that life had ended as I knew it. And it was around Thanksgiving when they let me go, and so I was talking to my parents, and I was like, I really think I need to go to rehab. And what I meant was, I really think I need to go to rehab so I don't have to spend 30 days in jail. And they were like, yeah, we would totally support you. You know, we've thought for a long time you've had a problem. I was like, okay, I'm going to call. And so I called First Step in Monroe, and they were like, yeah, we have a bed open, come on. And I was like, well, you know, it's right before Thanksgiving, so I'm probably going to stay through that. And then, you know, Christmas is also coming. So I'll give you guys a call around the first of the year. So, so I did. And the New Year's before I came into the program for the first time was the worst New Year's of my life thus far, I'm sure. More will be revealed if I decide to go back out there and start drinking again. But I woke up on New Year's Day, and I was laying underneath the desk. My bottle of vodka had turned over and was Chinese torturing me in the forehead, and I wanted to die. And, you know, there have been times of depression in my life. There's been times when I've thought about, well, maybe it would be better if I didn't wake up, or like if I was in the hospital, maybe it would be best if I just went ahead and passed away right now. But that was the first time that I, like, literally, I needed to die. I wanted to die. And I had about 3 more days left before I was going to First Step. And so I called my dad, and he came and picked me up at the hotel I was staying at. And I spent the last 3 days blowing any money that I had, taking anything that I could, drinking as much as diabetically possible, and then woke up Monday morning, January 4th, 2010, and left and went to First Step. And the night before, I had been over to my girlfriend's house, and we had talked about what we were going to do when we got out. They started making sangria, you know, ready to celebrate when I got out in my 28 days. And so I walked into that building knowing that I wasn't going to stop drinking forever, that I just really needed to not drink for that 28 days. And so I went in, I hated it. I told my counselor, first off, I'm not really good at following rules or being boxed in. Just wanted to let you know that. It's not really what they like to hear when you're signed up for 28 days of being locked in and under rules. But, so I sat down, and after they had taken all of my books, all of my CDs, anything that had liquid alcohol of any sort out of my bags, and I felt completely bare and all alone. I don't know that I consciously prayed, but I know that God showed up. And later that night, we went to a AA meeting at a place called Fellowship Home, and I picked up a white chip that night. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't understand the program at all. I hadn't been around it. I've been in NA a little bit, but that was kind of a joke on my part, and so I picked up the white chip, and then the next day I went to my counselor, and I told her, I was like, I think if I go home, I'm not going to be able to not drink. And honesty is not my policy at all. I don't know why I was honest that day, but I was. And she told me about this place called Bethany House, and it sounded awesome because I had already been to that treatment in Florida, and I knew they had horses, cool rooms, So I was like, yeah, sign me up, halfway house. And a couple weeks later, we came and toured Bethany House, and I flipped the freak out. I was like, what is this place? It's a dark dungeon. You know, who are these Cynthia and Paige people? They scare me. Apparently, Cody peed on my foot as I was leaving the house. I'm told that was a good sign in the long run, but it was not what I was expecting. It was no 5-star service. I wasn't going to be locked in there with Lindsay Lohan, and it just wasn't going to be cool enough for me. But my parents made it very obvious that it was either there or maybe they would let me use my car to sleep in, but I was not coming home. And so I decided to go to Bethany House. And even to the very last moment, I was finagling my way, because it was like, you have to go directly to Bethany House. You cannot go home and pack. You cannot pass go. You cannot collect $200. And I was like, okay. And so I talked to my counselor, and she let me out a day early so I could go home and pack everything that I own, literally. I came in there with like 8 trunks and garbage bags and everything else. So I went to Bethany House. What a joy my first time at Bethany House was. I was not ready. I was stubborn, unteachable, a newcomer to the program, didn't know what in the world was going on. I'd lived a very sheltered life until then, in that if I wanted it, I got it, and if I didn't get it, then I took it. And walked into Bethany House, and no one wanted to hear my BS, and no one was co-signing my ish, and it sucked. And I was very, very angry. And there was a girl with me. We had been roommates in First Step, and we came to Bethany House together, and we moved out of Bethany House together, and we were best recovery buds, and it was a really sick relationship. And it's a friendship that I still hold near and dear to my heart, but it's a sick one still to this day. And, that's hard. About 3 or 4 months into my time at Bethany House, we all went on a women's serenity retreat. And, my friends were there from the house, and there's a bunch of other women who had a lot more time sober than us. And by the end of the weekend, literally every woman there probably wanted to choke me out, because I was such a mess to be around. I was taking everyone's inventory. I had a horrible attitude. I felt bad inside, and I wanted you to feel bad too. And whether that was through my cutting sarcasm, my pouting, my hissy fits, I was taking you down with me. And when we got back, I stomped into the house and stomped up to my room, and I was called back down to the office. And it was very plainly made to me that either I changed the way I'm reacting and acting towards other people, or I go and stay for that 2-year suspended sentence in prison. Prison's a big word for me because it scares the bejesus out of me. I wouldn't survive very long. I mean, I'm sure I would, just wouldn't be preferable. And there were days at Bethany House where I sat down and I made a pros and cons list. What are the pros of going to jail? What are the cons? Do I really want to be in this halfway house? I was miserable. And ended up staying, and had this much willingness, just this much. And that night after we got home from the retreat, I tried to go to sleep and laid in my bed for a long time, tossed and turned, and about 3 o'clock in the morning I jumped out of bed and I hopped onto my knees and I said, God, help me. And it's amazing how little effort we have to put in for God's grace to come upon us. And that night I was given a peace. It wasn't the same peace that I gratefully live with today, but it was a little bit of peace in a very chaotic mind, and I was grateful for it. And so I started more or less following the rules. I went through sponsors like I'd gone through jobs one after the other. If you're in this room, you may or may not have been my sponsor at once. That commitment thing all through my life, whether it's a commitment to myself, to school, to sponsors, to jobs, to whatever, just not really happening. So left Bethany House, moved in with my girlfriend, and set out to change the way that I dated. And that was by dating people in the rooms and not outside the rooms. And had the chance to get to know some people in this program in that way. And I'm very lucky because the gentlemen that I did date are great people in this program and have great sobriety, and could very quickly tell that I had none, and it wasn't good what I had, and so they let me go. And that's a blessing in and of itself. So that's basically all that I did after I got sober. My grandmother died right before I picked up my year, and she is my God with skin on, and that was really hard for me. Because of this program, I was able to go home and stay with her while hospice was there. I got to spend the night with her, watch over her, be the granddaughter that I hadn't been for many years, and so that was a gift. But I came back to Southern Pines, and there was a hole in my heart, and so I set out trying to fill it with men, like I said, and met a guy on eHarmony or something, and it was awesome. We met. He came up here. I don't even know what happened, but I left Southern Pines for this man, and we were going to be engaged, and everything was going to be great, and he was going to take care of me, and it lasted for about 2.5 months. He cut me off from everyone that I love, all of my support group. A good friend of mine in the program passed away while I was down in Charleston, and I was not allowed to come to his funeral because he was a man, even though he was, one of my mentors in the program. And I got really sick. I stopped going to meetings. I wasn't doing any of it. I was barely contacting my core group of women back here, and I was suffering, and ended up having to call my parents in the middle of the night one night to have them come get me. And about a week and a half after being home, I relapsed on weed, and that's never been like a huge thing for me, but I did. And I knew immediately it was a really bad idea. I ended up coming up to Southern Pines to visit the girls in the halfway house, and Kristen H. always talks about how I came that Saturday morning and I was all, it's so great to have over a year in the program, and then that night I was picking up a white chip, and that's just my ego. I want you to want what I have, and so however I have to spin it. But that was the beginning of several white chips in a row. So that was September, October, November. I relapsed in January. My dad came to me and he said, you know what? I don't think you're really an alcoholic. I think that at some point you'll be able to drink normally again. And I was like, Dad, that's just crazy talk. I'm an alcoholic. And I was just sitting there driving down the road, and I was like, you know what? He is totally right. I can drink again. And so I was like, and you know what? It's not just someday, it's today. So I went out that night and I drank, and I had 2 beers, and I sat there and I watched everybody else drink their 2 beers, and I was like, I shouldn't order another one because that would be weird. And so I didn't, and I went home all wacky-walled and not knowing what I was doing, and I waited a couple of days because don't need to drink 2 days in a row, and then went out and got smashed. And for the next 2.5 weeks, that's what I did, and it worked out really good at first, and then on Valentine's Day 2011, I don't really like Valentine's Day. It kind of sucks. And so me and my friend Andy were like, yeah, let's go anti-Valentine's Day it up. And we did. And that night in a blackout, I walked from his kitchen into his garage, and there was like a little half step, and I shattered my ankle. And today I know that was God. My God's really funny like that. He puts up like little roadblocks, like, hey, maybe you shouldn't. No, it's not a good idea. People telling me, maybe you should not be doing this. And then he's like, okay, boom, and broken legs and stuff. And so I was laid up in bed for 3 months with that. I did not drink because my parents were there and I wasn't allowed to. And so I get out of the cast. I'm in the walking boot. I'm working on getting my license back because I haven't had it in 3 years, and it sounds like a really good deal to me. And So my girlfriend Kristen's like, oh my gosh, we should totally go out. There's a sushi restaurant near where I was working at the time, and I love sushi, and I used to work there, and I was like, yeah, let's do that. And she was like, well, do you want to do like a bottle of wine or something? I'm like, no, we shouldn't do that. Let's get a bottle of sake. So bottle of sake, bottle of wine, other drinks later. I'm like, well, we shouldn't really go home. It's still early. Let's go out. So we went to a local bar, and she was ready to leave, and I was like, oh, you just go ahead, I'll find another ride. A friend of mine came, he was like, I'll take you home, don't worry. And I was like, okay. He was ready to leave. I was like, don't worry about it, I'll get a ride. Got a ride with a perfect stranger, don't know. Was pretty much blacked out, definitely blacked out once I got home. Woke up the next morning, didn't feel right at all, and didn't know what was going on, and just went to work. My parents, the look on my mom's face, they were heartbroken, and I was kind of not feeling good about things either. And so I went to work, and I was going to meet a girlfriend for lunch. She came and got me, and I was like, God, I just feel so weird. And I just thought it was a hangover, been through it before. But we're sitting there at Qdoba, and she said that I went face down into my my meal and just started eating without my hands or anything, just in rabbit hole. And so she goes and gets like a canister of sugar and like tries to pour it down my throat, and I'm like not having that. So I'm like at lunchtime, Qdoba in Stonecrest, which is a very family-oriented area. I'm like cussing like a sailor, Anyways, ambulance comes, gurney, good old shot of glucose, and a fairy godfather. I shared about the other night in a meeting, so if this is repeat, I apologize. I finally came to in the ambulance as they were taking me. I'd had a sustained, it was either a 26 or a 13 that time. Normal blood sugar runs about 80, and mine was very low for a very long time, and I shouldn't be alive. And the EMT was like, so somebody didn't want you to die today, huh? And I was like, yeah, I don't think he did. He was like, well, are we talking about the same he? And I was like, yeah, I think we are. And the EMT said that he makes no mistakes. You're alive for a reason. Figure out what that reason is. And so that night I left the ER. I had to get a ride from somebody else because my parents wouldn't even come to talk to me about it. And went to an AA meeting, picked up a white chip. The next day I went to the state conference. I spoke with the director of Halfway House here in Southern Pines. I said, I need help. And she said, come. The next day I told my parents. The next day I packed. The next day I arrived back at Bethany House, which again was a blessing. It's one of those blessings in disguises. I came with a very humbled heart. I very quickly let my ego grow and grow. And I did not follow the program as laid out in the Bethany House handbook at all. I still managed to stay sober. And in December of, I guess that was 11, I broke my other heel. And so I wanted to go home back to Charlotte to orthopedic surgeon that I had already used and have him do it. So I did. While I was home, I got a call from a great company in Charlotte and offered a really great position, so I stayed and stopped working the program. And January, February, March, April, May, June, hell. I would, for weeks on end, sleep for 18 hours a day, wake up, watch some murder mysteries, eat something, and then fall back asleep on my couch. I had no reason to live. I was in the worst depression of my life, and I had no one. I tried to go back to AA, and I put myself on the outer edge. Nobody knew my name. Everybody knew my sobriety date because I was about to have a year, and that was important. But I never got honest with anybody. I had a sponsor who I really didn't like because she read the big book to me like I'd never heard it before. And I'm like, listen, I know the big book. And, still not clicking that knowledge is not power in this program, and in fact it can be the end of us. And so after much holding on and great pain, I decided to move back to Southern Pines. And I'm pretty sure the first week I was back here this fall, everyone I came into contact with wanted to give me a swirly or just choke me out. I was very, very angry and very hard to be around, and I wouldn't want to be around me. I'm pretty sure I made amends to myself because I was just hateful. And it was a ish show. And so I talked to my sponsor about it, and she was like, well, honey, have you gotten down on your knees? I'm like, I know I'm supposed to, but, no, I haven't. Have you been doing your meditation? No, but, I mean, I get this email every day, and I read it, and, just obviously not working the program the way that it's laid out in those 12 steps. And so I started getting on my knees, and I started doing what was asked of me. And one of those things was redoing a 4th step and doing a 5th step with my sponsor. And the 4th step is a really scary thing for me because I know everything that's wrong with me. It's really hard for me to write that out in black and white, and it's really hard for me to tell somebody else. That 5th step is torture. But this time I did it to the best of my ability because I was so over it. I had that gift of desperation this time because I knew that life could be better because I saw it on all of your faces, but I was not better. So the 4th and 5th step were hard. I went home and I did 6 and 7 like I was told, and I've never slept better in my life. I laid my head on my pillow with peace, knowing that God, another woman, and I knew what had been done, where I was wrong, and what I needed to do about it. And good Lord, that felt good. And from that day, I had been riding a spiritual high for a couple of months. And that's all good and well until it ends. And in the last few weeks, I have had, I don't know if it's the winter blues or, no, I know what it is. It's that I haven't been doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I have to daily get on my knees. I have to write a gratitude list, thank you, and do that all the time, and read a daily meditation, and if I don't do these things, then I start going a little crazy. So I take it out on the people that are closest to me, and I'm grateful those people love me a lot because it happens often. But today I'm able to see that after about 2 weeks instead of it taking like 2 years, and I'm able to go back and I'm able to amend those things. And that's another gift that this program has given me. So today I have a job. I have, like I said before, I have sponsees who kind of light up my world because they make it not about me for once, and that's a big weight off my shoulders. I have a core group of women who, no matter what, no matter when, I can call, I can tell them the disgusting, ugly truth. They hear it, and they give me their experience, strength, and hope. And I never understood how important that would be in my life. I'm working now on being a trustworthy person and on being a friend. And those are two things that, I practiced the wrong way for many years. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but it's something that I can feel good about because I'm working toward a goal in my life, and that feels good. I am involved in Alcoholics Anonymous. The first time I got sober, I was too. I was definitely always down to go to whatever, but today I can take a back seat and enjoy other people enjoying themselves, and that's a big thing to me. I have a fantastic roommate, and I'll just dote on her for a second. Without her, I don't know that I would have made it through this last 6 months, because she let me come into her apartment and live with her, and she let me be a biddy, and she was only a biddy back sometimes, and that means a lot to me, because I've been with a lot of friends. I've had a lot of girlfriends and roommates kick me out over much less, and so that's a gift in my life today. I'm blessed to have a family that doesn't understand a lick of this disease, but they love me anyways, and that was hard for me because I spent so much of my childhood judging others, and I felt like they judged me for a really long time, and today I know that they don't. They just love me in spite of, because of, and that's really cool. The most important thing that I've gotten from this program is you guys. As I said before, the Sandhills is blessed with great AA, and I've been other places, and the 12 steps are always the 12 steps, and recovery is always recovery, but this is my family, and y'all help me on a daily basis, not just in that you push me to better myself, or that you get me to come to meetings or any of that, but you show me how to have fun and love myself and be okay with me no matter what. And that's something that I've never had in my life before, and today I'm grateful. I think that I have nothing else to say, and so I'm going to sit down, but thanks for letting me share.